Hello, fellow SEOs. It's Crystalbat here from SEObank.ca, and I have spent the last few days just educating myself on Google Cloud's new natural language API, and I kind of wanted to share some insights with you on what the tool is and what it's all about. So I haven't heard too many people talking about this tool. I do see a lot of chatter around the new BERT algo update and how you can't optimize for BERT. However, I do think that tools like this are extremely insightful for text analysis and what you can do with your content marketing. And you can kind of get, some insights into how Google is currently seeing your article copy. And what we're talking about is SEO entities, sort of your salience and other weighted factors that sort of Google is giving us a REST API for. Also a relationship kind of tree or a dependency tree on what words are strongly correlated to one another, and what kind of dive through the tool. So I will put both. The tool is located at cloud.google.com/natural dash language, and they also have documentation, which I've been kind of going through, just taking a look at everything here. And they've opened this up essentially so that large corporations can take large documents, data, receipts, and figure out sort of the sediment of the data. And I think what they're working towards with RankBrain and everything else is what we already know, is they're trying to capture, user intent, the sediment of essentially what the copy feels about a certain thing. And ultimately, I think the end game for them is programming emotionally intelligent machines is where we're heading to with ultimate AI. So no matter what your opinions are about that, it's a little bit fun to use for SEO, but ultimately, I don't know if we're headed towards a singularity or it's a whole nother topic entirely. So let's dive right in. As far as I know, essentially this API, there isn't any limit into how much data you can place into the snippet. It's completely free. They do have a paid version. I will probably do another in-depth tutorial on the paid version, but just as a quick walkthrough, let's dive in. So I recently did a blog post on a client of mine's site. It's acne scar laser treatments in LaSalle, and essentially answering sort of a few different questions, different acne scarring types, with images here, and essentially different skin types. And then it talks about the process, sort of what we'd see within a Google answer box. Who is this treatment for? What can you expect? Does the treatment hurt or not? So we can all kind of take a look at these sorts of things and plug them into our copy and hope to get into things like, rank 0, rich snippets, and or the answer box. But I think this tool kind of helps us understand what Google sees and essentially how it's picking up that type of information. So what is an entity? An entity is sort of a person, place, thing, or organization, and essentially anything that you see here that is highlighted in the entities section, it will have a value here. And if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, you will see essentially what that entity is. If it's other, this is the type here. You can see organization, location LaSalle, which is good. It's picked up our location from a Wikipedia article. Other person, like teenagers, adults. So you can all see these as entities. So it gives us kind of a good sort of classification of all of our content, and you can see if it has actually picked up, and I do see that FSR has been picked up as an organization. In this case, that is not an organization. FSR is actually the service or laser technology that we're using to do the acne scar removal. So that's one that may need some finessing. Here's another one, beautiful skin. For some reason, it has tagged that as an organization. So as I go through and get into the paid program, I'll have to find out what essentially, and usually it's a combination of either links or other signals that go into this tool that sort of tell Google, hey, this is an organization, especially if you're using semantic markup in your copy. So if you're familiar with schema markup in your copy, then essentially that really helps Google classify entities within your copy. So with schema.org, you can take a look and start programming proper markup for any of these things and ensure that basically things are tagged correctly. So this is the first time I've dived into this tool. I haven't sort of optimized back and forth against this. Like I know a lot of people are either, using Surfer or Pop and or Cora for these things. I know recently the creator of Surfer has announced that he's going to put more NLP sort of programming, and I think he might be even using this API. I'm not too sure. I would have to ask him directly. But essentially, all of those things are very telling for your SEO entities here. So having said that, underneath each one of these, they have a salience score, and it is from 0 to 1. It goes up in increments of 2 decimal places. So as you can see here, the salient score is almost a 0. Something like, let's see if we can find a higher one. Higher salience. 0, 0, 0. Maybe at the top of the list. Maybe they organize them by salient score. It looks like they do. Yes. So this one is the highest. And essentially your salient score is how relevant a certain entity is to your overall topic. So if this was a 1, that would be an exact match or a heavily weighted relationship between, one entity to your overall topic. So having said that, we have another one, complaint here. So if somebody is sort of complaining about acne scars, that is highly relevant to our overall acne treatment laser service. If that makes sense, I think it does. And you can see and go through each one of these as far as the entity itself, how strong the salient level is to your particular topic. So in a perfect world here, every entity that essentially Google has picked out of your copy, you would want that salient value to be very high, or at least, giving some results as far as salience. And that way that you have created a highly on point topic for your copy. So the next thing that it pulls out is Sediment. So Sediment is broken down into both score and magnitude. And if I take a look at my notes here, the score is basically either going to be a negative or positive sediment as sort of what the topic is perceived as. So if it has a lot of negative connotations, you're going to have sort of a negative score here, like -1 is the most negative, and a 1 is the most positive. So on the second side of this metric, you have magnitude, and your magnitude is essentially how emotionally strong that overall sediment is. So if I've explained that clearly, the score from negative one, which is the most negative, to just a pure one, which is the most positive. But then the magnitude here is how much emotional sort of sediment you've put behind either that positive or negative sort of copy or what you've talking about. So you can see here, dull, uneven skin makes you feel self-conscious. That has a negative connotation to it. So it has negative 0.8, almost close to a full 1. And the magnitude of that, well, it isn't necessarily screaming about it, but it does have some magnitude. So the overall entire document would have a positive or negative score, so that you can see that it's sort of mixed in that regard. A 0 would be almost sort of like neutral sediment. And then the magnitude is sort of how emotionally charged your entire copy is. So there's a lot of great groups. Right to Rank is one of them, and they talk a lot about just being emotional, like somebody telling a story, but how much, you know, emotional content they're putting in their piece. And, you know, natural language is one thing, but if you're being emotionally charged about a particular opinion or your view on something, then that's going to come across. And that's really what Google in the 21st century, 2020 is moving towards, is becoming an intelligent machine, is really moving towards AI and being emotionally intelligent, so that it can sort of feel and know not only what you're asking, but how you're feeling about it, right? So these are deep learning models. It's machine learning. It's coming into the 21st century of voice assistants and just sort of knowing, oh, did you mean this or did you mean that? And essentially how, you know, somebody's copy feels about that topic. So let's continue on. The next tab here is syntax. And syntax is fairly interesting as well. It gets into dependency and sort of the breakdown here. Each one of these is called tokens. So it's going to break apart each sentence and put them into tokenization. It gets into lemma, which essentially is just breaking down language to its kind of root. So lemma in English, for example, if you have words like run, runs, and ran, they're all forms of the same sort of word. So it all boils down basically back to the root. And with this sort of breakdown, it's going to classify each one of these words as a noun, pronoun, adjective, and so on and so forth. And you can kind of see the relationship, like treatments here is the root of these sort of other nouns. And it's basically going to give you well, morphology analysis, which essentially is how we create proper sentence structure. Again, we're going to use this probably for SEO, probably not. I would have to dive into this and see if they're giving any sort of coefficient factor or weighting or anything like that, where there's sort of a relationship between these words. This is basic NLP as far as, you know, natural language patterning. This is what they're using to basically kind of create their vector models and you know, use kind of a blueprint or a template on how English language and all languages present themselves. So you can uncheck any of these. Morphology gets into basically two: first person, second person, third person, and yeah, just basically linguistics 101. So they track and analyze all of that data. Let's take a look at the last tab here. So categories, this is important as well. After it analyzes the complete document, it's going to give you basically a confidence score on what it thinks your overall article topic category is about. So in my case, it has indexed me correctly, beauty and fitness, face and body care, and skin and nail care. So depending on how far it goes here with basically the subcategories, its confidence level on this is a 91, again, 1 being a perfect score. And then health conditions and skin conditions, they're fairly close. So it's kind of giving me a dual category here. It will try and be as specific as possible, and then as well as give you sort of a confidence score. And I like that it has viewed my copy in the correct category and essentially give me a high confidence score on both. I feel good about that. I can call my client and give them this information and see if I can get some higher retainers. But yeah, so at the very earliest stage, I think this tool is new. I don't think a lot of people are using it. Again, I personally use Page Optimizer Pro by Kyle Roof, because I'm in the course and I'm sort of trained to use that tool. I know a lot of guys are liking Surfer and Quora as well. But these tools kind of in conjunction can really give you some serious insights, again, on how Google sees your copy and your topic. SEO Entities. If you read SEO by the Sea, Bill is a good guy to kind of take a look at this and get some information about how Google is moving towards entity search and what it means essentially for SEO. So if you're still, kind of in the framework of, keyword stuffing and or, I don't know, LSI keyword tools and things of that nature, it might be wise to switch it up and get into something like the NLP kind of Google Cloud tool here, and just reframe your thinking towards sort of entity search and what that means for us as SEOs. So thanks, guys. Again, I will do a follow-up with this. It's kind of initial. I am still learning it myself, as I haven't seen too many people talk about it, but I hope that was at least insightful for a brief overview of the tool. Thanks.